미일 kHz 제너럴 김종일.
Respected Kim Jong-un, First Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea, First Chairman of the National Defense Commission of the DPRK, and Supreme Commander of the Korean People's Army, guided a gunning practice of artillery sub-unit of Unit 681 of the Korean People's Army. He was accompanied by Yoon Dong-hyun, Vice Minister of the People's Armed Forces. After receiving a report on the gunning plan, he fixed a firing order and method and gave an order to start firing. The sub-unit moved to the position set by him and took the firing area and started gunning. Attentively watching the gunning practice, respected Supreme Commander Kim Jong-un seriously pointed out that the sub-unit had not properly conducted drills to strengthen the mountain overcoming ability, shorten the time of maneuverability and deployment, and increase combat firing speed for successfully carrying out its combat tasks, and was not prepared well for action. He said the unsuccessful gunning practice that day resulted from formalism in training. He noted that the war breaks out without prior notice, and regular full preparations for action to cope with it will make it possible to neutralize a sudden invasion of the enemy immediately and take initiative in operation and battle. Respected Supreme Commander Kim Jong-un said, nothing is more important than combat preparations just before a war against the United States, and the combat preparations of the People's Army are not a thing that can be done tomorrow, if not today. And he put forward important tasks to strengthen combat preparedness and fighting efficiency of the People's Army. The Kim Jong-il Military Research Institute, with bronze statue of the great leader Generalissimo Kim Jong-il, was built and inaugurated at the Kim Il-sung Military University, the highest institution of the Chuche-based military education, on the 25th, on the occasion of the 82nd anniversary of the heroic Korean People's Army. Present at the inaugural ceremony were Chang Jong-nam, Kim Gi-nam, officials of the armed forces organs, teachers, students and employees at the university, officials of military academies of different levels, officers and men of the Korean People's Army, servicemen's families, and officials of the units that had contributed to the erection of the bronze statue. The bronze statue of the great leader Generalissimo Kim Jong-il was unveiled by the leading officials of the Army and the Institute. The floral basket was laid before the bronze statue in the name of respect to the Kim Jong-un. Also laid there were a floral basket in the joint name of the Central Committee and the Central Military Commission of the Workers' Party of Korea and the National Defense Commission of the DPRK, and the floral basket in the name of the Kim Jong-il Military Research Institute. Placed there were floral baskets in the name of the General Staff of the Korean People's Army, the General Political Bureau of the Korean People's Army, the Ministry of the People's Armed Forces, Korean People's Army units of different levels, military academies, and institutions that achieved the successes under the great leader's guidance. The inaugural address was made, and the participants looked round for the statue of Generalissimo Kim Jong-il. Kim Yong-nam, Park Bong-ju, and other senior officials of the party, state and army, commanding officers of the services and corps level units of the Korean People's Army, and service persons of the People's Army, visited the Princess and Palace of the Sun, and paid high respect to the great Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, who had laid in stay there on April 25th, on the occasion of the 82nd anniversary of the heroic Korean People's Army. Set up on both sides of the full-length statues of the great Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il were the flags of the party and the republic and colors, and the guard of honor of the ground, naval, air and anti-aircraft forces of the Korean People's Army, and the worker pattern red guards was lining up. Seen before the statues was a floral basket in the name of respect to the Kim Jong-un, first Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea, first Chairman of the National Defense Commission of the DPRK, and Supreme Commander of the Korean People's Army. Laid before the statues was a floral basket in the joint name of the Central Committee and the Central Military Commission of the Workers' Party of Korea, the National Defense Commission, the Presidium of the Supreme People's Assembly, and the Cabinet of the DPRK. The participants paid high tribute to the statues. They aimed for the halls of immortality where the great Generalissimos Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il are laid in state, and made a bow to them. Service persons of the Korean People's Army, working people of different circles, and school youth and children laid floral baskets, bouquets, and flowers before the bronze statues of the great leaders Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il on Mansu Hill, and paid homage to them on the occasion of the 82nd founding anniversary of the Korean People's Army. Seen before the statues was a floral basket sent by respect to the Kim Jong-un. Placed there were floral baskets in the name of the party, armed forces and government organs, public organizations, ministries, national institutions, units of the Korean People's Army and the Korean People's Internal Security Forces, and different levels of institutions, enterprises, factories, farms and schools in Pyongyang. Service persons of the People's Army, working people and school youth and children laid floral baskets, bouquets and flowers also before the bronze statues and smiling portraits of the great Generalissimos Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il in Pyongyang, including Kim Il-sung Military University, the Ministry of the People's Armed Forces, and the Mansudae Exterior, and other parts of the country. A whole visiting group of Koreans in Japan headed by Lee Sun-hee laid bouquets before the bronze statues of the great leaders Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il on Mansu Hill, and paid homage to them upon their arrival in Pyongyang by air on the 25th. A friendly visiting group of the State Forest Administration of China, led by Deputy Director Tu-yi Lee, laid a floral basket before the bronze statues of the great Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il on Mansu Hill, and paid homage to them upon their arrival in Pyongyang by air on the 25th. Wreaths were laid at the Revolutionary Martyrs Cemetery on Mount Daesung, the Patriotic Martyrs Cemetery, and the Fatherland Liberation War Martyrs Cemetery on Friday, on the occasion of the 82nd anniversary of the heroic Korean People's Army. Placed at the wreath-laying stands of the cemeteries were the wreaths sent by respect to Kim Jong-un. Present at the wreath-laying ceremonies were Kim Yong-nam, Park Bong-ju, and other senior officials of the party, state and army, chairperson of a friendly party, officials of the party, armed forces and government bodies, the cabinet, working people's organizations, ministries and national agencies, service personnel of the Korean People's Army and the Korean People's Internal Security Forces, and working people in Pyongyang. The participants laid bouquets and flowers before the bronze bust of the anti-Japanese heroine Kim Jong-suk at the Revolutionary Martyrs Cemetery on Mount Daesung and observed the moment's silence in her memory. That day, wreaths were also placed at the martyrs' bronze statues and cemeteries, monuments to fallen soldiers of the People's Army, and martyrs' graves across the country on the same occasion. Foreign military attaches core in Korea laid wreaths at the Revolutionary Martyrs Cemetery on Mount Daesung and the Fatherland Liberation War Martyrs Cemetery on the 25th, on the occasion of the 82nd anniversary of the heroic Korean People's Army. They laid bouquets before the bronze bust of the anti-Japanese heroine Kim Jong-suk at the Revolutionary Martyrs Cemetery on Mount Daesung and observed the moment's silence in her memory. Kim Yong-man, president of the Presidium of the Supreme People's Assembly of the DPRK, sent a congratulatory message to Tanzanian President Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete on the 21st, on the occasion of the 50th founding anniversary of the United Republic of Tanzania. The message said, "It is a great pleasure that the friendly Tanzanian people have consolidated the political independence of the country and made a great progress in all fields of social and economic life over the past half a century. It expressed a firm belief that the friendly and cooperative relations between the two countries with a long history and wonderful traditions would be further strengthened and developed in common interests in Israel, and wished the President Kikwete a greater success in his responsible work." Military band march and concerts of the Korean People's Army took place on April 25th on the occasion of the 82nd anniversary of the heroic Korean People's Army. The General Military Band of the Korean People's Army lined up at the foot of the Mansu Hill with the bronze statues of the great Generalismos Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. Flying the flags of the Supreme Commander and the Republic at the head, it marched to the Kim Il-sung Square, performing songs including "Long Live Generalissimo Kim Il-sung," "The General is the Band of Victory," and "We Know Nobody But You." Citizens excitedly waved hands towards the band, marching through the Changjeon crossroads, loudly performing revolutionary military music. The General Military Band gave an exciting military band concert combined with the ceremony at the Kim Il-sung Square. People's delegations visited the units of the Korean People's Army on the occasion of the 82nd anniversary of the heroic Korean People's Army. Meetings were held at units to convey the gift sent by respected Supreme Commander Kim Jong-un. Members of the delegations delivered aid goods they had prepared with sincerity to the service persons, and together with them took part in the meeting for celebrating the 82nd anniversary of the heroic Korean People's Army and various other events. The People's delegations requested the service personnel of the People's Army to achieve greater successes in their combatant political trainings in hearty response to the orders of the respected Supreme Commander. The performance of the art squad of the Central Committee of the Kim Il-sung Socialist Youth League was given at the plaza of the monument to the party founding in Pyongyang on the 25th in celebration of the 82nd anniversary of the Korean People's Army. The performance began with narration and mixed choruses, "Long Live Generalissimo Kim Il-sung," and song of the Korean People's Army. Put on the stage were various items, including light music, serial revolutionary songs, female duet on the high passes and rugged roads of this land, and dramatic talk, Name of Youth. Dancing parties of youth and students were held in Pyongyang on the 25th to celebrate the 82nd anniversary of the Korean People's Army. Youth and students danced to the tune of different songs, including "Guerrilla March," "Our General is the Best," and "Our Leader Kim Jong-un, Loved by the People," at the dancing grounds of the capital city Pyongyang, including the plazas of the monument to the party founding, the Arch of Triumph, and the Pyongyang Indoor Stadium. That day witnessed the dancing parties of youth and students in the provincial cities and counties. Report of the Korean Central News Agency. An organ concerned of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea detained 24-year-old American citizen William Matthew Todd, who acted rashly in the course of check during his entry into Korea for tourist purpose on the 10th. In the course of his entry, William Matthew Todd, carrying the tourist certificate officially issued by an organ concerned of the DPRK, grossly violated our legal order, saying he would take refuge and he has come for shelter. The organ concerned considered his act to be serious and detained him. Now the case is under investigation. Pyongyang, April 25th to 103 or 2014. Yang Hyung-sop, Vice President of the Presidium of the Supreme People's Assembly of the PPRK, met and had a talk with Thomas Ayan, Chairperson of the International Weightlifting Federation, who paid a courteous call on him at the monthly assembly held in Pyongyang on the 25th. Thomas Ayan, Chairperson of the International Weightlifting Federation, visited Mangyongdae, the birthplace of President Kim Il-sung, on the 25th. According to the South Korean internet newspaper Tongil News, 26 Japanese civic organizations and 55 South Korean civic organizations made public a joint declaration on the 22nd denouncing the U.S. President Obama for his visit to the Asian region. Saying Obama's visit is a dangerous move to strengthen the U.S. hegemonic military policy towards the Asian region, the declaration demanded the United States, South Korea, and Japan stop offensive arms build-up. And that's the end of the news, read by Jong Nam. This is Voice of Korea. The daily Rodong Sinmun on Saturday commented on the naked truth tellers of the nuclear war servant. The commentary said some time ago, the South Korean puppets held the so-called fifth meeting of the Joint Defense Consultation with the United States in Washington, and continued, under the pretext of deterring somebody's nuclear and missile threat, they discussed specific ways to implement the tailored deterrence strategy. The war hawks also discussed on jointly developing the missile responding capabilities, including the kill chain and missile defense system, to detect the sign of nuclear missile launch of the opposite side and mount a preemptive attack. After that, the South Korean puppet had a security discussion with the U.S. and Japanese masters under the same verb of what they call promotion of defense cooperation. They made such preposterous remarks as the principle of not pardoning the North's nukes, and kept up a provocative bracket talking about deterrence of additional provocation and reassurance of close cooperation. The recent meeting of the Joint Defense Consultation and Security Discussion are a clear manifestation of the unchangeable ulterior intention and inveterate confrontational stand of the South Korean puppets not to improve the inter-Korean relations, but to harm the fellow countrymen through strengthened military nexus with outsiders. No matter how harshly they may slander the PPRK, talking about threats and the like, the South Korean authorities can never hide their dirty plot to impose nuclear disasters on the fellow countrymen, playing the part of a North-targeted war servant of the outsiders. That was the commentary on the naked truth tellers of the nuclear war servant, carried in the daily Rodong Sinmun on Saturday. This is Voice of Korea.
永久有避免受人方称王病人。
无地去寻找。
Twente-female duet, Mother. Now we enjoy a female instrumental ensemble. The party is Mother. orchestral music. Road of Victory. kHz will triple 100 forever.
hell kingdom of crimes. Two small arms incidents happened in succession in Kansas City of the United States on April the 13th. That 23 persons died in incidents that happened at the Jewish Community Center and the village in the suburbs of the city. Earlier, on April the 2nd, the bloodshed happened at the U.S. military base in Texas State of the United States to the astonishment of the people. That day, a combat thrust GI fired at his colleagues, killing 3 and wounding 16 others, and as a result, a great chaos was created within the base, people seeking shelters all at once. The indiscriminate shooter also killed himself. According to data available, the base witnessed a similar crime in November 2009 as well, which killed 13 and wounded 32 others. In the United States, loudly talking about freedom, democracy, and human rights, small arms crimes are an unpreventable great social problem. The United States is the world's first country in the small arms crimes, surpassing any other countries. Recently, the American magazine Foreign Policy wrote that in the United States, more than 30,000 people are killed and over 200,000 wounded by small arms every year. Those figures show that more than 1 man is killed by small arms in every 2 minutes. According to the curtailed statistical data announced by the New York City authorities some time ago, 1,093 small arms cases occurred in New York City alone last year. It nakedly shows the present reality of the American society. The same is the case with this year. In early January, an unidentified criminal broke into a house in the city of Texas and fired at people indiscriminately, killing 1 and wounding 2 others. Even before the victims subsided, a student of a middle school in southeast New Mexico fired a gun at 4 other students. Guns are fired at film enjoyers and in restaurants after course, and students shoot at their fellows in the sacred campus knocking battle, turning the campuses into pandemoniums. The small arms crime at the house at the beginning of the year struck the whole of the American society, including cinema houses, schools, universities, hospitals, and markets, giving uneasiness and terror to the people. ABC, newspaper Washington Post, and other media of the United States exposed the successive small arms crimes and deplored that the crimes represent wide-ranging physical problems in the society. Those crimes in the American society are based on the prevalent law of the jungle, extreme misanthropy, mammonism, and individualism. In a word, the United States is a living hell and kingdom of crimes. Such countries rare in the capitalist world too. But the U.S. rulers shamelessly say that no other country makes so great efforts to defend and protect human rights as their country does. It is a nonsense. The United States had to find out the solution of its own serious human rights issue before talking about other human rights issues. You've been listening to an account under the title, Living Hell, Kingdom of Crimes. This is Voice of Korea. With this, we conclude the English language service of Voice of Korea from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Voice of Korea presents its English language service for Southeast Asia between 5 and 6 hours UTC on 13,650 kHz and 15,105 kHz, and between 10 and 11 hours UTC on 11,745 kHz and 13,650 kHz. For Middle East and Northern Africa between 16 and 17 hours UTC on 9,890 kHz and 11,645 kHz, and between 19 and 20 hours UTC on 9,875 kHz and 11,635 kHz. For Southern Africa between 19 and 20 hours UTC on 7,210 kHz and 11,910 kHz. And for Central and South Americas between 4 and 5 hours UTC on 11,735 kHz, 13,760 kHz, and 15,180 kHz. And between 10 and 11 hours UTC on 11,710 kHz and 15,180 kHz. Goodbye, this is Pyongyang.